Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Goff, and I'm Principal Product Marketing here at Revenera, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Hidden Costs of Homegrown Software Monetization Systems and How to Avoid Them. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Revenera's Ravi Trivedi, Senior Product Manager, Daniel Mbweni, Senior Solution Engineer, and Sheila Bilderback, Manager Consulting Services, who all work with customers and prospects nearly every day and have great insights to share on today's topic. They'll also share their previous experiences working with homegrown monetization systems, so please be sure to take advantage of that and ask whatever questions you may have for them. Before we get started, though, let's go over a few quick housekeeping details. First of all, today's discussion will be roughly 30 to 40 minutes long, depending on how chatty we get and how many questions we have. Speaking of questions, if you do have questions or comments, please be sure to add them in the Q&A tab, and we'll try to answer them as we go along or at the end if time allows. And if we don't get to your questions, don't worry, we will follow up with you individually after the event. Please check the handouts tab where we've shared a number of resources relevant to today's topic, and you definitely won't want to miss those. And finally, we will be sending you a link to the recording in the next 48 hours. So let's get started. So despite what this AI image might suggest, I am pretty handy around the house. So why would I pay someone to do a home improvement project when I could do it myself and save some money? That's a great question. Well, first, I'm not an expert. There are lots of jobs around the house that I can do, and my family, my customers, will be happy with the outcomes. But there are some behind the scenes things like plumbing and electrical that require expert help. Those are the types of improvements that my family doesn't normally notice until I break something, and then there's no water or electricity. Second, it is absolutely going to take me a lot longer to get a project done. Even with some decent skills, I'll end up watching a lot of YouTube videos, usually at half speed, and making multiple trips to the hardware store for parts or tools that I'm missing. Oh, and did I mention that home improvement is only a small part of my job at home? I can only spend 1 or 2 days a week on home improvement, and then my family gets really frustrated when they don't get the more valuable things that they really need and rely on me for. Third and finally, more often than not, I will eventually need to call in the experts to get me where I actually wanted to be. I think we've all had the experience of starting a project and realizing you're in over your head, or you finish the project so it's just good enough. And then you find out, oh, wait, we need hot water too? Nobody told me that before I started the project. Is that a new requirement? Or I know the right combination of switches to turn on so we can watch Netflix on the big screen with surround sound. Why is that so hard for my family and our guests to figure out? And before you say, Michael, that picture doesn't seem like it's that far off from reality, you may want to limit your home improvement to changing light bulbs. Well, I am more handy than that, but definitely not as handy as my brother-in-law, Chris, who built an entire freestanding office in his backyard for my sister, literally from the ground up. But even he knew that some foundational things like the electrical, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning and spray foam insulation were all going to require expert help. The bottom line is that we are much better off focusing our strengths where they add the most value and bringing in the experts where they don't. Just because we can do something with certain limitations doesn't mean that we should. And of course, in this case, I'm trying to save money, not make money like you all are with your software offerings. So with that, let me hand the conversation over to Daniel, who will walk us through some of the hidden costs of homegrown. Daniel?
Thank you, Michael. And kind of piggybacking off of that, especially as you look at the software monetization space and what that looks like now and the trends that we're seeing, really a good bucket to just categorize this is that every tech company that we speak to or that we see out in the market and industry is really a hybrid software organization, whether that's traditionally on-premise software, traditionally hardware vendors who are now venturing into that software space because of ways to be able to offer different product packaging and offerings to their customers, or some of the pure SaaS customers that we also see that are in this space as well. Regardless of which scenario or in between your business might be, we see that most or some of the products that customers are delivering are containing software, and a large majority of those are increasingly moving to SaaS. Now, just because that there's going to be SaaS models that are out in the market, that does not mean that local or offline or on-premises software is going away. We've actually, right there, for some of these traditional customers, there's still a long tail of on-premise software that needs to be maintained. But even in areas like the SaaS world, there's also hybrid cases for private cloud, private deployment, offline use cases that their software also needs to be able to support. And so all of this is just categorizing and just and can be summarized by the fact that a lot of tech companies are hybrid, and that translates to complexity from a licensing or software monetization perspective. As you think about your software business and not just where you are right now, you may be focused on a single deployment, but down the road, as you want to grow your business, as you want to expand into new markets or the use cases that your customers are requesting from you, that adds complexity to kind of what Michael said, right? It adds complexity to the different modules or the different components that need to be built or managed and maintained. And so you may start a single deployment model, but then, you know, a subscription or usage based or a SaaS model if you're traditionally on premises, all of those start adding to the complexity of the monetization model and the platform that you need to support. And so as your businesses and your products evolve, it's important to be able to adapt quickly and implement a framework that can help scale and support multiple products and monetization models to take advantage of customer demand and market opportunities. As and as we think about not just from a business or technical deployment perspective, but even with your monetization strategy, this is not just something that's a technology based um, like issue or technology based focus. There is monetization strategies have a great business value impact, and it matters even to the C-suite objectives and the metrics that they have targets around. And so you might ask, why would this matter to like a CEO or a CFO? Well, the way a company monetizes its software helps determine its success and its growth. And so when you think about increasing recurring revenue and profitability, right, or looking at how ways you can grow successful product lines and accelerate time to value, or have your R&D focus on the core product functionality efforts than software licensing or your monetization strategy, all of that ties into having a monetization solution or a strategy that allows the business to focus on their core competencies. I don't know, Sheila, Ravi, from your experiences or from your interactions with customers, if there's anything for you to chime
Yeah,
regarding the monetization strategy.
absolutely, Daniel. I've been in a number of conversations in my previous role as a homegrown entitlement and license lifecycle solution. The way C-suite executives think about the shared technology team that help put this entitlement and life cycle pieces across their product lines, the C-suite executives are always thinking about the total cost of ownership, right? I mean, how many engineers I'm going to have in-house, right? What are the hidden costs of having them run my business? And then they start to ask you questions like, I mean, are we the right people to solve this problem, right? My company is built on, say, printers or storage, networking, cloud compute, or a medical device, right? Is entitlement and licensing the core competency, or is it a distraction? And most of the times in these conversations, it's generally distraction, right? And then where I mean, when events like the spin-off, right, selling one product line to another company happens, then this shared technology team is already saying, oh no, I mean, I run this, however, if I loan this out, somebody in this when they go to another company could still be generating licenses from from the parent company, right? So these things might start to look very complex, and there is a risk element that these C-suite executives are really aware of, right? Recently, I had a friend, and he said that we have our quote to cash. It's all DIY. It's streamlined. However, we have a very important event in my company. We are going IPO, and suddenly the books of accounts need to be so streamlined, so auditable, so compliant that they said that I don't have a team who could scale up to or has experience to move to even this kind of important events, right? So it's all about quote to cash process, and then the C-suite executives actually want it streamlined, which is very difficult when you DIY, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's from my experience firsthand. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so on the services side, we see it, it could start with your executives saying, hey, we need these certain metrics. And the business looks at it and says, okay, to get to these metrics, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And so they go after it. We see it with acquisitions. We see it with separations of companies, as mentioned, right? Where there's a top line that the business is trying to get to. They want to streamline a process. They want to be faster time to market, and they need data visibility. And we see it in all of those cases where it goes back to your C-suite objectives.
That's and even you mentioning that with mergers and acquisitions, something that you made me think of in a similar vein with with what you spoke about, Sheila. Even just the rise of AI, cloud costs, and
Mhm.
the infrastructure associated with not just not just enabling the functionality, but then now as a lot of vendors are looking at how do we monetize this, right? And having a monetization solution that can scale and support your business as you are making and product enhancements, changes, understanding your AI infrastructure across, being able to focus your core competencies there and the profitability of AI, and versus let's look at how we change our licensing model, and like focusing on the infrastructure to enable the platform as much. So I
Yep.
I appreciate that
Yeah,
that insight from you.
I mean, honestly, you're absolutely right. Right now, the market is just, yeah, I mean, it's changing so rapidly. Technology just keeps continuing to change. And to be faster to go to market, to be able to do those things, investing your time in going that direction versus, oh, I got to change this model and this code, it has to be impacted, and this many people need to be involved. That's where this kind of plays.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, as we transition from the C-suite objectives, looking into, when we look at the challenges of becoming a successful SaaS company, or looking at some of the SaaS monetization at scale, I was curious, especially for you, Ravi, because you've
Yeah.
being a product manager, some of the right Revenera, like we are a SaaS company as well, and so looking at some of those components from your perspective, I'm interested in you sharing your thoughts and insights on some of those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go top down because we'll look at what we are hearing from some of the SaaS producers who want to monetize their offering, right? Like what's happening in the industry is they're trying to preserve their margins, right? Because their cloud costs are growing. It's good that their customers are committing to a subscription that gives them ARR, and then they look attractive for acquisition, and they are able to report on ARR, which is good. However, when they see that cloud bill, then they're again going back to, okay, are we preserving our margins, right? And then that kind of surprises them, and they would want to make rapid product packaging changes to pass that cost to the people who are ending up on their platform and using their software as a service. The other challenges that they face is that they're trying to reduce entry barriers for the customers, because the customer acquisition is also a important metric that these SaaS customers have. Now, if you have a rigid entitlement and license enforcement in this space, that's not going to work for you. You need more modern monetization solution that, I mean, I think is something that you will cover, Daniel, later today, that these SaaS companies focus on, right? So and also at times, while these SaaS companies think, because IP is with me, not in the hands of end customers, why do I need a monetization service? Why do I even think about the entitlement and license life cycle, right? But what happens over a period of time is that if you start to measure your own resources, the capabilities, the users that are coming in, you're missing out on how you're going to utilize that data to charge back your customers accurately, or find out what are the potential upsell and cross sell opportunities.
Mm.
These are often short sighted when they say, okay, I'll do it myself, because at that point you're purely focused on, okay, resources, users, and you're just focusing on counting, but you're not thinking about other aspects of being profitable, having your rapid packaging for preserving your margins, and then reducing barriers for acquiring your customers from a wider market, right? So yeah,
Right.
and yeah, all this are deep into the problems that a DIY company could face. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, this slide also really plays into like what kind of conversations might be going on at company who is trying to do a DIY, right? And what can slow you down, right? It's good to know through a forum like this, or a thought leader like Revenera to speak to this, right? Most of companies think that, yeah, I have a CRM and identity access management, right? What else do I need, right? I mean, while you might feel there is an advantage and you have a system that is already running for you, what will happen over a period of time is you will start to build up many custom add-ons. You will have multiple products doing their own implementation of the provisioning aspect of the entitlement, because each product may feel that, yeah, I mean, when customer decides to exercise their rights, then this is how I'm going to provision, right? And then over a period of time, you're going to have many disparate products doing their own implementation of how they interact with the CRM, right? Uh, and 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 there are many solution gaps, right? That you will develop over a period of time, and it's something that is not manageable over a longer period of time. There are certain critical questions that a typical CRM will stop to answer in terms of value realization that your customers are doing when they get a usage. You don't have a way to get the customer usage to charge them back, right? CRM is a record of order, accounts, and entitlement. However, the entitlement and monetization solutions will give you insights into the usage.
Mm.
And and again, homegrown is not a bad option. Someone might think about that too, right? I mean, I'm not going to stop with CRM and IAM kind of solution and then leave it to products to do enforcement. They may say, okay, let me build a common licensing layer that is built by a couple of engineers, and then they would say, oh, okay, uh, this is a good start, right? And then again, you will see with the kind of complexities you highlighted, when they are acquiring more companies, that brings in more newer products, having their own enforcement, right? And then what happens is that you will again start to see this disparate system, no
Mm-hmm.
consistent branding for your customers, meaning imagine your product got sold, and then your brand is still looking like, when customer is trying to activate your software as a service, they see a old label or old license generator string popping up, right? So all these things give a inconsistent experience and a confused brand reputation within your customer community, right? If you're doing everything homegrown, and if you decide not to do anything, then mind you, you're ending up with contracts on paper or digitally signed documents, no enforcement. It's a perfect recipe for revenue leaks, right? And 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 again, you're not even thinking about uh, geopolitical aspects of it, right? Can you sell into certain geographies? Do you have the system in place if a company thinks, starts to shut down or puts a big firewall where traffic can't go beyond certain boundaries, right? Or if you are a producer who are abiding or are from a country of origin that is far west, and then that there are policies changing on how you can sell or monetize devices or softwares into far east economies, right? Then you, then you really don't have any control, right? And that's where you can lean on the experience that Revenera and team have built up, right? So to I mean to stop you from slowing you down on these kind of situations. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that and as you mentioned, right, just kind of the three different ways or three different components of kind of that we've seen where there's existing systems or homegrown custom development. Something that I I think is also just worth noting, right, is that most of the time the it's it's not that homegrown can't work, right? It's not that leveraging existing systems or custom development or doing nothing. It's not that it doesn't work for your existing system or for existing solution right now. Like you can get it working, but then when you look at the solution, oftentimes when we're talking to customers who or prospects who are talking to us specifically for a monetization solution, it's not because they couldn't solve or address or get their homegrown system working. It's because there's insights, there's analytics, there's actionable items, there's a strategy, there's a scale that they're looking for that they were not able to maintain. So I think it's important to when talking to prospects, it's not just, well, we can do this with our homegrown. It's not a matter of whether or not you can get it working. It's a lot of the data associated with that as well. And I know, Sheila, you can touch into this as well, looking at that customer experience aspect. I know, especially in services, like some of the things, some of the components that you tie, maybe you can chime in a little bit of the a bit of from the customer perspective and their experience as well.
Yeah, so really, I mean, you kind of hit on it, right? Is it scalable, and what would it take to maintain it? Those are two big questions and two big issues that typically we see in services with customers who have homegrown solutions. Because, like you said, they actually, they have no problem getting it to work. It's just they can't get it to some customers can't get it to work fast enough, and then the number of people and resources needed to maintain it, they're spending more time maintaining than they are working on, taking the time to look at their software monetization, looking at the data behind what they're getting from their customers, and being able to build that research and build their product and spend the time there versus doing something that they're not really selling, right?
Exactly.
So it comes down to what a customer really wants to go after. But from the services perspective, we've seen all different aspects. We've seen customers who everything is completely homegrown, from every piece that you touch in the IT, every web app, every UI. And then we have customers who have pieces. So it varies, but everybody kind of comes with, at least a lot of the customers that we see, they come in and they have trouble with scalability and maintaining, and they just want to move faster. Because again, technology is moving very quickly. Things are just growing at a fast pace right now, and it really helps.
Yeah, and even with, like you said, it's a fast pace. It's constantly moving. I think that ties back to even just the definition of software monetization, right? Is that it's not a one and done. A lot of times, people, okay, we have a licensing solution or we have a monetization strategy. It's like, well, markets are going to change, businesses are going to evolve, your customer needs are going to adapt, and so that's really where having a continual process and having a business operational process around that and
Yeah.
a solution to help scale becomes important. And I think as we look at and that kind of ties a little bit into who we are as Revenera, right? Like we are a primary business and organization who focuses on supporting vendors, software producers, have have a flexible and scalable monetization strategy because we understand that it is an ongoing process regardless of where you are in this we have customers across the spectrum with the monetization models that they support, whether it's from traditional perpetual subscription, but transitioning to some of the more user-based evolving models, all the way to some of the more hot topics of like the token based or metered outcome consumption based type models. There's new models that are evolving and coming out in the market based on customer needs, based on the AI cost, or people looking to monetize those components as part of their business, because there's such a drive in incorporating that and having that as a profitability target, even for some of the different C-suite objectives as well. And so as we and a lot of this is not just one or the other. Like we mentioned earlier in the conversation, it's a hybrid solution, right? And especially as we think about some of the especially as we think about some of the models regarding the support of being able to make AI profitable in your business. A lot of times there may still be a base subscription or lease capacity of existing license models like a subscription, but then there's peak usages, or there's peak areas that you may want to adapt your model to be able to capture the usage or the need for the use of your software in specific periods. And what we've seen with some of our prospects and some of the customers is that we've seen the matching capacity with a hybrid implementation of models. In this case, seeing a combination of both our Elastic Access token type model, and in addition to a subscription model where you provide capacity for some of those for projects that may be outside of the typical lease capacity use cases that a customer may have.
Yeah, I've had some interesting examples on how, I mean, and it's different in a software vendor space or pure play software provider than a device, right? A device company, and I mean intelligent device manufacturer, right? I mean, a lot of use cases, right? We may think devices are all on-prem. However, they're collecting a lot of device events in various scenarios like healthcare or data center automation, or simply home improvement automation devices and all that. What they're doing is they're collecting all that event, but then when they build something like predictive analytics or disaster avoidance kind of solution, they're almost always offering that on software as a service basis, because you're no longer tied to a firmware and all that. You can give these insights, predictive analytics or disaster avoidance, through a SaaS solution. So the way you put this slide up, Daniel, it's very interesting how a device can go out in field with certain on-off or counted capabilities on lease model. However, those SaaS solutions that may not be needed all the time, right, could be offered on tokens, where it's a drawdown consumption model where software as a service is purchased in consumptive mode, and then they commit to certain tokens, use the software as a service, and as they achieve their outcomes, their tokens go down, right? And that's how producers get paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to your point, like especially thinking about it in the context of Homegrown, right? Where for some of our vendors who are looking for this type of flexibility, if they had to build this type of monetization strategy from scratch, having and assign the resources to not just develop but to maintain this, it starts creeping into your ability to get to market quickly, and how you're able to deliver value on your solutions, and the capabilities that you can deliver to your customers. And so that's really where the synergies of having a monetization platform like what Revenera provides is able to assist, helping you adapt and go to market quickly as the markets and the businesses change. So with that, I kind of leave Ravi, any kind of like tying in the summary or lessons learned from Homegrown, or kind of just your experiences there.
Yeah. So yeah, from my experience working in my previous job as a DIY entitlement and license life cycle solution, I've seen and gone through these problems that my shared technology team faced. Right, the things like we've had product release delayed over a year because we had the core product ready, what market needs. However, the monetization models that were needed to do entitlement and license life cycle on that new product got delayed because the engineering team had to build something that is more suitable for uh, cloud deployment or SaaS monetization space, right? So it's, I mean, again, your core competency, you're trying to go to market against your competition, and just because you didn't have the monetization thought through, you I mean, you're at a disadvantage of a 1 year delay of release of that product. And then you would have I mean, you can get exceptions. You'll have board to empower product management to make certain decisions without the help of engineering. That's something that will come up in your conversation, because when you talk to your C-suite executive, you'd say, okay, I'm not doing this because we still need engineering to finish this piece of enforcement. And then board directors would say, no, I mean, we are in a fast moving space, we need to be able to adapt to the market quickly. So when board empowers you as a product manager to make these pricing and packaging decisions, again, without the help of engineering, you will not be able to do it when you I mean, when you don't have a solution like elastic access that you just spoke about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and things will start to get messy around GA, and then you'd not have an automated enforcement, right? But you will end up with contractual obligations for your customers, and then a manual process of auditing your customers, which is never a pleasant experience after those buyers have paid huge upfront fees to you, right, as a seller. So I mean, they're not pleasant conversations or practices to have in this modern, connected, and streamlined quote to cash world, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
and mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, again, then when you have certain engineers with significant knowledge of a homegrown implementation, when they leave your company, then you are again in another situation where you've lost all the knowledge, and it team takes a long to recover from it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the lessons uh, learned.
And I appreciate you sharing those from some of your previous roles, or your perspective, kind of having managed some of those, having been in in an environment or a situation where you've had to manage homegrown as well. And I also wanted to bring in you, Sheila, especially thinking on from your perspective of someone um, who's had to manage at transition, right? Or had to really own a process of some of the homegrown transition into a more modern entitlement management strategy or solution. Just some of the lessons that you learned from that process, or what you've
Yeah.
seen from your customers and services.
Okay. So from my perspective, being a previous customer, there were quite a few lessons learned. I know every customer is different in how they set up their homegrown, right? So for us, and it was a long time ago when I first started that journey, one of the big ones was going back to actually C-suite, right? Our C-suite, so our officers wanted to know certain points and data around our product. And we couldn't deliver that information based off of how we were running our homegrown and how we were capturing data at that point. So data was super critical, which I do believe data is super critical in growing your monetization. It's just a big piece of your product, right? It tells you so much. So data was a big one for us. And then license enforcement. So our homegrown system, as far as, license enforcement, wasn't where it could have been, and again, it's way back when, right? So today things have changed a lot, and there was just so much growth from the license enforcement and the data capturing that was had. And then from a customer's perspective, we see a lot of, especially with the mergers and acquisitions on the homegrowns, it's how to bring those teams to market and into your systems effectively and quick, which is where those mergers and acquisitions start to see some of the issues that come up. It just takes them a little bit longer, right? So those are items. But again, I go back to data is so important. Governance is so important. And those are key drivers in some of your conversations within a business.
And having that data available in a single system like FlexNet Operations Cloud is as critical as that, because I mean, in my previous job, we had 38 license generators sitting below our entitlement management system, because each product went ahead and implemented their own solution or license generators that sit under entitlement. And to bring that all together, make any sense out of a non-standard protocol across those license generator and add up all those usage and give the insights like you said, Sheila, on the data, which is important on a single system like FlexNet Operations Cloud, is pretty powerful. And mind you, when you're making that transition from homegrown to a platform like Revenera provides, on day one, we don't expect you to switch all your license generators to our own technology. It's going to take you years before all product lines adopt it. At that point, also, you still need that single pane of glass, which is FlexNet Operations, that can give you insights into a third-party license generator, which is your DIY, your Revenera solutions that are built to suit your point of access, right? All that needs to add up in a single pane of glass, which is FlexNet Operations. Only then you have that view, which is pretty powerful, I'd say, that I noticed after joining Revenera.
Yeah, and we actually see that with a lot of our customers as they're coming on board, right? They have third-party generators, and they're looking at simplifying their processes and streamlining. So they'll come in and they could start with, okay, let's just come into FlexNet Operations and bring with us our existing license key generators, and we can automate that, right? So we put that into the system and we set it up for them. And then they look at long-term, okay, now we're in, but we want to have extra features and we want to be able to do different things. And so then they look at other models and licensing technologies to help improve. Everything is a phase, and businesses continue to pivot, which is great. It's what I love about the market, because I'm always learning and everybody's always growing.
Exactly. And and to your point, Sheila, right? It's evolving, it's changing, and that's again tying to scale, right? Being able to have a monetization solution, a system that's able to scale as your business, as things change in this dynamic economy. So I think a quote that nails this on the head. I'll just leave this up as we're wrapping up. But just from the managing director from SimCorp, Pam Vance. I think her quote nails it on the head. Just looking at the cost of building like a cost of DIY or homegrown versus investing in a solution, and just the value, and again kind of allowing a business to focus on their core competencies as well, and being able to grow and scale. So with that, I'll leave this up just to as we wrap up, and just say thank you for the time. I think we still have some time for questions, Michael, or
yeah. First off, thank you guys. I mean, the dream team. You guys have such great experience, with customers in the industry and for a while, and you really recognize the value of, understanding what the difference is between building and buying, and when you should allocate resources. And as you hinted at and spoke about, it really is important to make sure that you're focusing on your core competencies. And as Pam here says, focus where you add value to your end customers. And speaking of end customers, sometimes end customers need access to some of these tools as well, right? So we didn't even get into customer portals, we didn't get into partner portals, but these are all other levels of things that people need to think about when they're about to implement a software monetization solution. Maybe we'll have a part 2 sometime down the road.
Yeah. You can build a word cloud, Michael, actually using, things like, I don't know, offline devices, software updates, right? Piracy and overuse, customer portals, you said, availability, self-service, right? Or, you could build a word cloud of all these things that you should think about. Yeah.
And sort of coming back to what you guys were talking about when you're talking about, making sure that your AI initiatives are profitable. If we go back to that ridiculous AI picture at the very beginning of the presentation, I had a lot of prompts to make sure that I didn't look too crazy and that it was the image that was appropriate for this discussion. But at a certain point, they want to monetize that. And at a certain point, I need to, align the price with the value. And like, okay, do I need to pay some tokens now to get that to look even better? Yeah, we'll see. But when you have a system that's a configuration, right? Like in your software monetization solution, just to make a configuration change versus to ask engineers to go back in and hard code something to implement a drawdown consumptive model, like you're just getting to that profitability a lot sooner and making life a lot easier for you, and ultimately helping your end customers because they're getting the value from your engineers that they really pay for, not the electricity, not the plumbing, not things like that. But anyway, we've gone on too long. The hot water. Yeah, don't get into hot water.
You got the image right, although the DIY was wrong, but the image was perfect.
So we're a little bit over, but we just got one question in, Sheila, for you. Are there any specific metrics that the C-suite wanted but weren't able to pull out or were difficult to pull out of your homegrown system?
Oh, there were so many.
Well, give me one or two, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so for example, the big one was just, where's the software going? So we, being a hardware company selling software as hardware, we weren't really capturing where the software was going. So it was sold to like a headquarter location. We didn't know where it went from there. That was a huge problem for us because we wanted to know what sites were installing the software because everything was offline based. And so that was a big one.
Yep. Perfect.
Being able to capture the correct end user.
It matters. Well, thank you all again. I just love having these conversations with you all because you're so good at what you do. And I hope the audience saw that too. I'm pretty sure they did. And thank you to the audience for joining us today. And again, please feel free to reach out after the webinar if you have any follow-up questions or if there's anything you want clarified. And if you did enjoy today's session, I highly recommend that you sign up for Soft Summit. It's the industry's leading conference on software monetization. You can sign up today at www.softsummit.com. We've got great speakers from Forrester, Simon Kucher, Eaton, as well as a slew of experts from Revenera. Sheila, I think you're one of them, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, I will thank everybody again and say I hope you all have a great day. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thank
You.
you. Bye.